Hey guys, let's get more news from Dallas Cowboys, but first don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Here's how Micah Parsons wants the Cowboys to change for 2024. It's clear to everyone that something needs to change in the Dallas Cowboys organization. Jerry Jones claims the team will go all in this season, and he can put his money where his mouth is in March when free agency begins. He isn't the only player in the organization who is outspoken about change. All-Pro edge rusher Micah Parsons has voiced his opinion on both his podcast and more recently on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Parsons said he talked with Jones during the Super Bowl in Las Vegas about what kind of players he'd like to play with next season. Who did Baltimore have? A great linebacker, core right, Parsons said on the show. Who did San Francisco have? Great linebacker core. I said, to Jones, we need to get us another bigger linebacker. And I said we need to get a super, 330-pound, nasty interior, defensive lineman. Look how Arik Armstead, Javon Hargrave, caused havoc in the last 2 games. I was pinpointing that we can build in this because we're slim. We have guys. I think Osa Odigizua has been great for us, but we just need a big OL 330, can't move, defensive lineman. Because I saw the way Chris Jones affected that Super Bowl and I was like, my God. Parsons made it clear to Smith that winning was much more than about the personnel of the team. He specifically addressed the comments that his teammate DeMarcus Lawrence made on First Take. Lawrence said the Cowboys were fatigued because opposing teams treated Dallas like a Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong, yes, I agree that teams played us like the Super Bowl. We are the Dallas Cowboys, Parsons said. But in the end, that's not a good enough reason or excuse to say that publicly. One-on-one, cameras off, sure be my guest. But once that regular season ends and it gets to the playoffs, you're supposed to feel rejuvenated. That's part of that culture stuff where I want to dive into the players that we got to change. You should never go into a game like, I'm tired, I'm ready to go home. Because that's exactly what's going to happen, and it did happen. The Cowboys lost against the Green Bay Packers, 48-32, in the playoffs this season. But it was 41-16 by the end of the third quarter. Dallas clearly knew they were finished. It's more culture and cultural than it is players, Parsons said. I just think nowadays you got guys trying to get paid, they want to live like rock stars. You got guys that live above the star, they want to live up to the star. The easiest way for the Cowboys to change their culture will be with the 7 draft picks starting at 24th overall in the 2024 NFL Draft. Before that, though, is free agency, which starts March 11th. Dallas is $16 million over the cap, but can clear up room by cutting players and restructuring deals. I think a lot of it we got all these vets that have been there so long, and they think they got this idea of what everything is, Parsons said. I think it's time for the younger guys to rise. Dallas needs stronger wide receiver option to support CeeDee Lamb. 2024 Roster Review, Starting Wide Receivers, Part 5 of 17. Click here to view all articles in this series. CeeDee Lamb is the clear WR1 in Dallas. His contract extension should be the top priority at the Star. Which begs the question, who will be WR2 for the Cowboys going into 2024? It certainly isn't Michael Gallup. Dallas blundered badly by extending Gallup and trading away Amari Cooper after the 2021 season. They haven't had a consistent WR2 since. Gallup is likely a cap-clearing, post-June 1 cut in a few months. Brandon Cooks is signed for the 2024 season. But he is not a player best suited for the role. After Gallup and Cooks, the depth chart is very green. Of the remaining 3 wide receivers on the roster, Cavonte Turpin is the elder statesman in age at 28, which he'll be when the new season kicks off. But he will only be playing in his 3rd NFL season this fall. And he is more valuable as a returner than a receiver. In 2023, he had 12 catches for 127 yards and 3 touchdowns to go with 11 rushes for 110 yards and a touchdown. And at just 5'9" and 153 pounds, he doesn't have the size needed for a second wide receiver. Jalen Tolbert will turn 25 later this month and he is 6'1", 195 pounds. He has the size and will be playing in his third NFL season as well. Last year, Tolbert started 6 games and finished the year with 22 catches for 280 yards and 2 scores. 13 of 22 catches resulted in a first down. Of the 3, he seems the more likely choice to take on WR2 on the depth chart. Jalen Brooks was a 7th-round pick in last year's draft. In his rookie year, he suited up for 7 games. He caught all 6 passes that were targeted at him for 64 yards. A small sample to be sure. But a 100% catch rate is not something to downplay. The case could be made for Tolbert to move up to WR2, Cooks in the slot and Brooks continuing to grow in 2024. It would make the Gallup departure easier. But Dallas would still need to add a receiver to the roster. And the only way they do that is in April's draft or in free agency. Thanks to earlier trades, the Cowboys will enter the 2024 draft with single picks in rounds 1 to 3 and a pair of picks in the 7th round. Dallas gets compensatory picks in the 5th and 6th rounds at the end of each round. So, barring any trades, the Cowboys will get 7 picks this year, but they need to make the first 3 count this year. They did not do so in 2023. As far as who they could get will depend on a lot of factors, namely, will there be an early run on the position that leaves the cupboard bare? Depending on how the other teams draft, I have my eye on 2 solid players that could be around in the 2nd or 3rd round. Why Saquon Barkley is a perfect fit on Cowboys, per ex-NFL GM. Saquon Barkley was one of the main headliners of last offseason, as his ongoing and ultimately unsuccessful long-term contract negotiations with the New York Giants served as a driving force for a running back financial compensation debate. There might not be much of a struggle between the 2 sides this year, however. The Giants are not expected to use the franchise tag on Barkley for the 2nd time in a row, according to Paul Schwartz of the New York Post, which would make him an unrestricted free agent. He declined this past season, tallying 962 rushing yards on just 3.9 yards per carry in 14 games. The 2-time Pro Bowler should still attract interest on the open market, though. Former New York Jets general manager Mike Tannenbaum has a highly interesting destination in mind for Barkley should he officially become available. "This one's easy, it's the Dallas Cowboys," he said on ESPN's Get Up. Tony Pollard was mildly disappointing, replacing Zeke Elliott. His production went down by about 25%. When you're looking at free agency, the first thing you do is say, if we're going to go outside our building, who can we get in the division help us and hurt our opponent? If the number 2 overall pick in the 2018 NFL Draft landed in Jerry World, fans would need to brace themselves for a showdown actually worthy of the label revenge game. To Tannenbaum's point, Pollard regressed after coming back from a fractured fibula and ankle sprain and being awarded the lead running back role. The impending free agent posted comparable numbers to Barkley, 4.0 yards per carry, but did so behind a much better offensive line. New York ranked near the bottom in protection, a badge of dishonor it has perplexingly worn for several years now. A move to Dallas could reinvigorate the 27-year-old. Jerry Jones knows he won't have to break the bank on the position, so he should be plenty motivated to work out a potential deal. But would their hated rivals allow that to happen? And trust me, the last thing the New York Giants want to see is Saquon Barkley with a star on the side of his helmet, Mike Tannenbaum said. Could you imagine the first time Dallas rolls into town with Saquon as a Cowboy? He would be perfect because he can catch, he can run. I think his pass protection has actually gotten better. I think he would improve that position. And you fan, what do you think of the Saquon Barkley situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.